2020 has been a year of immense challenges. We're in the middle of an unprecedented economic and public health crisis. Small businesses have been forced to shutter or are barely staying afloat. Workers are out of jobs through no fault of their own, and folks are stressed about feeding their families and keeping a roof over their heads. Healthcare workers are exhausted, pressed to their breaking points from treating patients with COVID. But thankfully, there's light at the end of the tunnel. With the recent FDA vaccine emergency use authorization, Michiganders and Americans are finally starting to receive much-needed reinforcements to combat and to control this virus. Although there is light at the end of the tunnel, we know the next 2 or 3 months or more are going to be difficult. We cannot let our guard down. We must continue to wear a mask, to practice social distancing, and wash our hands. We all can and we must play an important role in defeating this virus, and we can do that if we work together. Mr. President, working together is the key to get through this pandemic. We know what happens when we work together here in this chamber. Early on in this pandemic, we worked together to pass the CARES Act, which provided vital resources and support to keep families and workers afloat. We worked together to pass additional aid for small businesses, for testing, for healthcare providers, and for hospitals. And right now, we need to once again come together and work together to pass another round of help. We've done it before, and we did it when case counts were far lower than they are now. We need to summon the same sense of urgency, and we must come together at the end of this week and pass meaningful, bipartisan, and comprehensive COVID relief. We must prove to the American people that bipartisan negotiation is not a relic of the past. As I talk to Michiganders each and every day, the message is very clear. They want us to put partisan politics aside and solve the very real challenges confronting our country. Finding common ground and bringing people together has always been my approach to serving Michigan and the people of this nation. This past year, I'm proud to say we've worked together to advance legislation on priorities to not only address the pandemic, but also tackle issues facing Michiganders and people across this country each and every day. On a bipartisan basis, we've been able to pass legislation out of Congress on a number of topics, whether it's been expanding apprenticeship opportunities for veterans, closing loopholes that posed a threat to our national security, saving taxpayer dollars, protecting the Great Lakes, which is one of our nation's most precious natural resources, hiring more agricultural inspectors at our nation's ports of entry, or improving the Department of Veterans Affairs caregiver program. And I want to take this opportunity to thank my colleagues on both sides of the aisle for their partnership with me in advancing these priorities. Now, Mr. President, I know there's no shortages of differences among us, but we've put personal politics aside and focus on addressing the problem at hand. I know that we can get results. As we enter this next session of Congress, I'm hopeful that we can build on some of the progress that we have made. Whether it's supporting small businesses, lowering prescription drug costs, ensuring our nation remains a global leader in innovation, or getting through this public health and economic crisis, there's much more that can be done in the next Congress, and it can only be done when we are all willing to reach across the aisle to find lasting solutions. 2 years ago, I delivered George Washington's farewell address on the Senate floor. It's an annual tradition here in the Senate. And in that address, President Washington warned of the dangers of tribalism and political polarization in our country. We cannot forget President Washington's message, particularly during these uncertain and daunting times. We cannot let polarization prevent us from doing the people's work. Let us build on that spirit of bipartisanship. Let us work together to get things done. Our constituents demand it. And this week, we can again work in a bipartisan way to pass a COVID relief bill that makes a difference to everyone suffering from this pandemic. Mr. President, I yield the floor.